Hello and welcome to the Churros y Tácticas Podcast. I'm your host, Kiyan Sobhani, joined by my equal, Diego Lorijn. And we are here, it's like I don't know if it's a post-game show. It's supposed to be a post-game show, but at halftime, Diego and I were texting. We're like, man, the post-game show basically might as well start now because there's no way, unless Costa Rica somehow gets a blood transfusion with Japanese DNA, they ain't coming back from this bloodbath. They're toast. So we just have recorded. The game is not finished. We're starting to record. I turned the game off actually right when Gavi scored the second goal, or the fifth goal. And I kind of
why'd you turn it off
after halftime? Well, just to record the podcast.
Oh, okay, because you can't have it on in the background.
Well, it's just too distracting at that point. Yeah.
Right.
But you have it on. So we only need one of us to give us updates. It's 5-0 currently still, right?
Yeah, 5-0, 10 minutes to go.
Yeah. I stopped watching.
Here comes 6. Almost 6.
So where do you want to start? I mean, here's my 10-second analysis.
Traditionally we always start with Spain, right? This being a quote unquote or loosely based Spanish football pod. So we can start with Spain. It feels like the World Cup has been, we're in the midst of it. We're nearing the end of what I guess could be considered match day 1 or round 1. If I'm not mistaken, tomorrow marks the last day of the teams that haven't played yet, and on Friday, round 2 will start. Kiyan, I think I got that right. Pretty sure because Holland will play again on Friday. So
I just wake up and I check the schedule.
Okay, so but yeah, man, it's the World Cup is in full swing. I'm happy. It's been full of surprises, and on that note, I guess this Spain 5, Costa Rica 0 is up there with one of the big surprises. I think the way that this team has dismantled, Lucho's team has dismantled Costa Rica is kind of beyond of what we expected. It's thoroughly enjoyable. I'm certainly enjoying what I'm seeing so far. A very recognizable style of play, just sheer and utter domination, quick passing, possession-based football, goals aplenty. Busquets, that is again in stellar form, both defensively, on and off the ball, and the offense is really starting from him. I mentioned Busquets because it's a Busquets that seems that every time he plays with Lucho, he takes off a couple of notches of his age and kind of transforms himself into his younger self. For me, a joy to watch, Kiyan. I'm just thoroughly enjoying this massacre that's taken place.
Your Busquets point is interesting because I think a lot of the dialogue heading into this World Cup was, Busquets is not Busquets anymore. He's not the same player he used to be. Yeah. And I think somewhere what got lost in that analysis was that Spain Busquets is a little bit different than Barcelona Busquets. You and I were discussing Spain's starting 11, and I had Rodri as the single pivot anchor. You said that that's probably not what was going to happen, and I ultimately agreed that Lucho does have Busquets there, but I thought Rodri was better. It's interesting that today they're starting together, and Rodri is starting as a center back, and
it's crazy.
There's a huge temptation when you see that starting 11 to be like, oh, here we go again. Lucho just drawing names out of a hat. This is the random thing for today. Rodri at center back. But it's looked good. From the first half that I watched with more scrutiny and under magnifying glass, him and Laporte read everything pretty perfectly in that high line. You know what I'm gonna say? Now let's wait and see when the real tests come what this looks like. But funny enough, Diego, I went into this tournament thinking and this was my biggest mental hack with Spain, is that I will not be surprised by anything. I will not be surprised if they slay Germany 7-0. I will not be surprised if they lose to Costa Rica. I will not be surprised if they win the World Cup. I will not be surprised if they get eliminated in the group stages. Right. So I'm not surprised. I'm impressed. I think that, to analyze this game for what it's worth, and it's not too complicated. Spain's counter press was perfect. Their movement between the lines, they had outlets everywhere, just perfect. It was great. The passing was amazing. The defense in transition was great. The reality is also that Costa Rica were horrible. And so you don't have to focus on that part of it. It's not to discredit Spain, but it's just something that you just know. It's like a footnote, Let's see what happens when Gnabry and Musiala come knocking in a group stage game that they have to win. So let's see. Good start, great start.
Yeah, I get what I guess characterize as skepticism on the validity, whether this is a Spain to be reckoned with, given the weakness of the opponent, a Costa Rica that traditionally in the past few editions of the World Cup, though, has not, as maybe punched above their weight. So I'm not a Costa Rica avid follower, very far from it. So I can't really judge their performance just on the night. I take it for what it's worth, and that is Spain is playing exceptional football. Surprising, perhaps, and I'll add myself onto the list that I didn't really know what to expect leading into this game from what we had seen leading up to the World Cup. Although, give credit where it is due. This is Luis Enrique and not just any other coach. This is a coach that, with Barca, achieved its highest heights. Won a triplete, playing very good football, and also, if we're going to apply his coaching style to his current squad, the Spain squad also did excellent in the previous Euro Cup, where they got eliminated. I think what we both agreed on was kind of unfair against an Italy side that was, weaker on the night, and penalties decided the fate on the team that went through. But, I think it's fair to say that the vast majority of people deemed Spain also the better side. So I think, with all that being said, is maybe we shouldn't be too surprised. Maybe we have been, whether it's overcritical or skeptical about Luis Enrique's this current Spain squad. Of course, it remains to be seen. And like you, Kiyan, this next match will be the biggest test, and as will the next one, right, against Japan, because next up is Germany. Then this Spain will face a Japan that has beaten Germany, to my delight, as you obviously know, Kiyan. I'm pumped, man. I'm very, at the end of the day, this is a knockout tournament. This is a World Cup. Surprises happen. Argentina losing to Saudi Arabia can happen. Japan losing Germany rather losing to Japan can happen. You're talking about two of the World Cup, or of the people's favorites to win the World Cup, in Argentina and Germany. Spain, is up there with the favorites. Perhaps not as much mentioned because we don't have that one star player. But what we're seeing is that Luis Enrique, with the players that he has, knows how to play very good football, and that is something that you just simply cannot take away. You talk about the counter press, you talk about the passing, the incredibly good understanding as well of the central defenders. Rodri, who was playing out a position with the midfield, Busquets, who's again dictating the pace, the tempo of the game, Gavi and Pedri, who, to any culé, it's no surprise what they have been doing on the night. And then as well, the Marcos Asensio, who also looks like a different Asensio completely than he does with Real Madrid.
Playing Asensio. Put some respect on his name.
Did I say Marcos?
You said
Marco. I'm used to saying Marcos Alonso now. Excuse me. And it's 6-0 in the 89th, in the 90th minute.
Last one?
Morata. And so Marco Asensio, who is also, I mean, playing as a number 9. So what more can you ask for? What more can you ask for? Germany, or if you're me, Germany losing, Holland and Spain winning. A Holland that we're still expecting a whole lot more from, of course. But so far, so good. And what is the most difficult game of the World Cup? Meaning that the first game, sorry, it was Carlos Schuler who scored the 6-0. You know, the first game of the World Cup is always that, what they call here, partido trampa, that kind of the tricky game. It's the first game. There's a lot of nerves. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of anxiety, if you will, positive or negative. And Kiyan, as you and me have mentioned so many times, 2010 Spain loses their first game against a very disciplined and good Switzerland side. I think it is different. You can't compare the losses of Spain in 2010 to the losses that we saw. Well, Germany maybe, but certainly Argentina against Saudi Arabia. I thought that Argentina rather were far out the better team, but didn't take care of business. I still expect them to go through. I don't know if Germany can necessarily go through.
I mean, so there's a lot in what you said there. I mean, just because you just said it now, but the Germany point, I mean, Germany really should have sealed that game by halftime. They didn't. You know, the possession, the field tilt, the XG, everything was so overwhelmingly in Germany's favor. But Japan in that second half, they just all of a sudden did everything they could have done to make Germany uncomfortable, which they did in the first half. They had an aggressive line. They had the tools to punish Germany in transition. Their high line has been a weak point. So the credit to them, they took advantage of that. Is Germany in trouble? Like, if they lose that game to Spain, like there's a very high chance they may only end up in this game with 3 points. I mean, really, there's a huge problem there if they can't beat Costa Rica. So I'm just going to pencil in 3 points for that last game in Costa Rica. But the problem for them is that it may not matter.
Correct.
By then, if they lose to Spain, and Spain looks unbelievable right now. So we'll see. I you know, with the point about what
it's
happened?
7.
It's 7?
Yeah, Morata this time.
Morata, I mean, this is the other side benefit of the beating up Costa Rica right now, is that the confidence. I mean, all the attackers scored, right? All 3 attackers scored, the starters. Morata, 2 goals off the bench. You have Gavi throwing goals in there too. Like, just a pure confidence level for Morata heading into these next few games is massive. And knowing Lucho, he may change the starting 11. He may throw in Morata there as a starter. So this is all good for Spain psychologically as well. What were we talking about? I lost my train of thought. Also, this is like
Germany.
Minor detail, but I can see the reflection of the game in your screen.
Oh,
and
really?
I just like wonder, like, because FIFA is always so petty, will this count as like copyright when it goes on YouTube? Because you can see like the reflection in the little corner.
Here,
you see it?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen.
I doubt that.
Get banned from YouTube.
I doubt it.
Hopefully not.
But to put you back on track, you were talking about Germany being in potential trouble, ending up with 3 points, because like you said, yes, I agree. If they lose against Spain, it's 3 points against Costa Rica, and then see what happens. Whereas Argentina were very lucky that Denmark and was it Tunisia? Was it Denmark and Tunisia drew 0-0? Of course.
I love how everything just, you want to circle back to ripping up Germany. That's like you're just right now you're dancing inside.
I'm enjoying the World Cup has been so good.
The only thing left for you today is if Canada beat Belgium, because I know you got to support Canada, right? Correct?
I do definitely. Yeah.
I'm just looking at the numbers right now, Diego. I mean, 95th minute now, 7-0. I think we can call it a game.
8 minutes of extra time, bro. What is going on with this World Cup and the extra time?
That's nothing for this World Cup. It's like
it's true. They played 14. They played an entire, break, an entire first half break. 14 minutes of extra time in that Argentina Saudi Arabia game. It was nuts.
What are your thoughts on that?
Look. I like that there's more game time. I like that. I think, like, for example, there were 5 minutes of extra time in the first half in this match. I question where those 5 minutes were lost when there was no players going down. There was no VAR interventions. There was nothing of that. So I question sort of, is that necessary, or who is keeping time? Like, where are they getting these minutes from?
I personally just don't like it. Called me like a classic North American yelling at an old cloud, but I'd prefer like the basketball style where the clock stops and we know exactly how much time is left.
Right.
There's no room for guessing. Extra time. There's been studies the fact that extra time is never accurate. It's always usually underplayed. Like, believe it or not, like, even though it's a lot, we're still not actually playing the amount of football we're supposed to get in 45 minutes. My solution has been just try out 30-minute halves. Stop the clock. Ball goes out.
30-minute halves. So basketball style, right? 30-minute halves. 30-minute halves. Stop the clock. Yeah.
But I there's counter arguments to that, and obviously people are right to disagree with me. So here are some just ridiculous numbers, just to put things into perspective on what Spain did to Costa Rica. Ready?
Yes.
Laporte, 160 touches, basically. He had 157. To put things into perspective, the most touches of any Costa Rica player, 38, which was the same that Unai Simon had. So Unai Simon basically had more touches on the ball than any Costa Rica player. There wasn't a single key pass or shot that came from Costa Rica. Not a single, like, that literally means not one single threat in this game came from them. Look at this. Azpilicueta had 3 key passes on his own. Asensio had 5 shots, Olmo 4 shots. It was a massacre. Like, I don't know how else to put it. Do you feel bad for Costa Rica? It felt like they were demoralized within the first 20 minutes.
No, don't feel bad. There's nothing to feel bad about. This is a tournament. No, this is a tournament. This is, you want to put your, kind of...
Okay, what about the fans? You feel bad for the fans who made the trip to Qatar and watched that?
I mean...
I always knew you were a heartless bastard.
I don't know. To be honest, there's so many empty seats. I wonder how many of these people are really from Costa Rica or Spain, for that matter. I'm always a little bit surprised to see people travel so far. I
had that same question. I understand, like, some of the Arab countries obviously having big support in Qatar. I always wondered, who are these people, who just getting up and going to Qatar right now? Like, it was really trippy because on TV here they were showing Canadians and Raptor jerseys in Qatar.
Oh, really?
I was like, well, it's so trippy to see. So weird.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. I'll tell you what, I don't know. I would like to get your take on sort of what you've been feeling, what your takeaways from the World Cup so far. It was branded, obviously, by FIFA mainly, but supposed to be the best World Cup to date.
They said that? Who said
yes. That? Well, I just read that, leading up to the opening ceremony, FIFA.com. And, with all of the controversy, humanitarian controversy, if you want to put it that way, aside, even from, fan perspective, purely focused on football as a fan, in 2010, we were complaining about the vuvuzelas. I would say my complaint so far is so-so. It's lacking in flavor. It's lacking in salt. It's lacking in spice. The Qataris themselves checking out of the game in the opening match at halftime already. Reportedly, 20% of the fans already left at halftime, and then in the second half, more started to abandon their own team as they were getting beaten to a pulp. Excessive maybe, but by Ecuador. Yeah, it's like that's not. I couldn't imagine that in countries with true football culture. They wouldn't leave their squad hanging and leaving, even if they were losing by 2-0 at halftime. And it's just that for me symbolically was kind of what I think I feel, and what a lot of people probably feel about this World Cup being just this sort of prop and a sellout of a World Cup in 2022, where Blatter and his boys just kind of fattened their pockets and sold the World Cup to a country that is just not traditionally a footballing country, right? That doesn't have that tradition ingrained in them of football or supporting their team until the very last minute. And I mean, it's the fucking World Cup, for crying out loud. It's the biggest tournament in the world. It's the first time you're hosting it. You're trying to show the world that you are ready to host a tournament, that you are, in love with the game. It's all about the game. Yet when push comes to shove, you push the eject button and you're out of your seat after 45 minutes already. For me, that just said a lot. It said a lot.
I actually didn't even know that happened.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not even sure what to answer, or if there's a question here for me, but
the question is, how do you feel about, like, are you, we talked about that we're missing the World Cuppiness, the vibe, right? Because it's in the winter for us, sure, etc. But with scenes like that, is that kind of like enhancing your disappointment, and if that's a good word to characterize or describe this World Cup?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has a weird vibe. I mean, and then you obviously have a lot of teams now really upset with FIFA, rightfully, about not being able to put certain armbands on. And like you saw the Germany
that was good
gesture today before the game with covering their mouths. You saw that Norway and Denmark have now publicly said that they do not support Infantino.
Yeah.
I guess it's one of those things that require, I think, an entire episode. But
sure,
to me, I suppose I would predict what's going to happen is after the World Cup is over, FIFA are going to be like, yeah, well, you were right. We'll allow these armbands in future. And then everyone will forget about it. And then it'll just, nothing will happen. Nothing will change.
Can you see another World Cup being granted to a country that, say, again, for lack of a better term, lacks in football culture, like Qatar? So random.
Yeah, because all it takes is a briefcase.
You think that'll continue?
Yeah, I don't see anything changing. So what's like let's say, for example, if Infantino goes, someone else comes in. What guarantee do we have that's just not going to be someone else corrupt? It's like, it's basically replacing just puppet after puppet. And I don't know what necessarily changed. I would hope there would be change. Obviously, that's what we're striving for.
But don't you think this what we're seeing now kind of kills the we always hear about football's for the fans, football for the fans. Isn't this the opposite? Is it this, a perfect showcase where we're seeing that it's not for the fans, and if that will continue, that it will. We're just kind of killing the game off for this wonderful tournament that's called the World Cup. It'll lose its magic, its aura.
I think the part of the challenge is that football is so good and people are so good that a lot of these times we forget. There's like just the beautiful scenes of the fans who are making the trip, or you see what happened today when Japan beat Germany, and then you see all the celebrations in Japan. There's that amazing video that's already gone viral where they're just such respectful people. Did you see that? Where they're celebrating in the street and they're crossing the street, but they're only celebrating when the light turns green. So as soon as the light turns red, they go back on the sidewalk to make sure they don't block traffic, and they're picking up their own garbage when they're there. Like, it just, you see all these beautiful things happen, and I guess part of the challenge is is that people are so good, and then you see all these beautiful scenes, and then we just forget, because football, like, there's already, and this is part of the reason why I think FIFA basically, what they hoped would happen was that World Cup starts, we forget. Spain beating up 7-0. We've already had 2 magical upsets in this tournament. The entire scenes, Mexico, Poland with Ochoa. Like, there's just so many moments in this tournament, and I'm probably missing a few that we just kind of, the society just kind of collectively, unfortunately, just forgets, and then we move on. So I guess that's part of the reason why I struggle to see if there would actually be change. And so I guess I'll just leave it there. And this is a big can to go and open.
I mean, the next one, the Japan, South Korea in 2002 was great when it came to fan turnout. Obviously not great because of the blatant corruption that was taking place.
Yeah.
But let's not go into that, I guess. But I mean, I think it's pretty much open now. No,
the corruption aspect.
The corruption,
of it?
The refereeing scandals that was taking place.
You have to be Infantino himself to deny that, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to what Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. can do in 4 years from now. I'm looking forward to that tournament because I'm expecting, a big spectacle. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. But yeah, I mean, you must be very excited to be one of the host nations for the next World Cup.
I think we're getting 2 cities, Toronto and Vancouver. I don't even think Montreal's getting one. But
Montreal, huh?
Yeah, I'm obviously going to be excited. I mean, I've never attended a World Cup before. I can literally just fly up to a game or drive up to a game.
That's great.
And actually cover a World Cup for the first time in my life in person. Yeah, I'm super excited for that. What about like just other things from the tournament that have caught your eye? I mean, I have not spoken to you at all since the World Cup started. I mean, do you want to go through that?
Yeah, definitely. I would like to know your favorites as well. I think goes without saying that England right now put on a great performance, unfortunately, against your beloved Iran, and I was rooting for you. I texted you during that. Iran had my full support, in particular after the emotional, not story, but the emotional situation that you put forward in a very, I think, eloquent and accurate way. I mean, I wanted Iran to get, even if it wasn't a win, a moral boost out of this, and it was quite painful to watch. So, I mean, but you have to say as well, England looked good. So, for me, clear favorites to win their group, probably along with the U.S. It'll be interesting to see what will happen between the U.S. and Wales. Obviously, they ended up drawing. Bale ripping the hearts out of many American buddies of mine with their faith placed in picking up 3 points from that game. But I still think that they will have what it takes to get out of the group, in which case, assuming that England will go through first, the US second, it will most likely, if we don't do anything crazy against Ecuador and Qatar, we will go through as first, meaning there will be the Netherlands, against the US in the next round. The Netherlands against the US, which is a matchup that I'm quite keen and looking forward to see. Because I think that, and I'll move on to Holland to give my 2 cents on my beloved Oranje. We're an underdog. We're a dark horse. We underwhelmed in the first game. I mentioned on the top of the pod that I think for many teams, the first game is deemed one of the most difficult. Obviously, the latter stages and the final will be very difficult, but just the ease, you're still getting climatized. It's the World Cup, the tournament just starting. So I'm hoping that we are going to see an ascending Louis van Gaal side that I expect a lot better from, despite the fact that this is a Holland that, we don't have the stars that we had in previous years. And by that, I mean, in particular, in the front, of course. It still is very weird to me to talk about a Dutch side that que se destaca más, that stands out more for the players that we have in defense, Matthijs de Ligt and Virgil van Dijk, as opposed to our forwards, where we really, have mainly Memphis. Gakpo, for me, was a bit of a discovery. I don't watch Feyenoord very regularly, so I really liked what I saw from Gakpo. I loved Noppert in the back. Noppert, Kiyan, is the Dutch goalkeeper who Louis van Gaal allowed to make his debut. So he made his debut for the Dutch national team in the World Cup in the opening game against Senegal, and give respects to the guy because for me he was the man of the match. I thought Senegal were very good, very disciplined. Of course, they're the African champions, but playing without a Mane, that they were still able to. It could have ended up in a draw easily. So they were still able to put a lot of pressure and make life uncomfortable for Holland. But I would say right now, and then sorry, I'm going on here a little bit. Favorites, and this changes game by game, Kiyan. You know how these things go. Tomorrow Argentina and Germany win, and everybody sees Messi and Müller and company as favorites again. But right now, you got to say England's looking fantastic, Spain is looking fantastic, and
we haven't even seen Brazil yet. I mean,
we haven't seen Brazil yet. Good point. They play tomorrow, correct? Or Portugal, for that matter, as well.
Portugal, Uruguay.
I mean,
I have a soft spot for Uruguay, so I'm going to be watching them with a close eye. But like the trouble with this is always that, much like the beginning of a season, like the first game or two from the World Cup, how much does it really tell us? It tells us just a little bit. We can analyze it. Like I'm not like when I watched England, Iran, obviously. I think a lot of people's takeaways were that, well, nah, Iran sucks, and this is why England looks so good. Well, I think a lot of people are going to say this with Costa Rica and Spain. I mean, I haven't read it, but I don't want to discredit Spain and England for, just destroying their opponents because their opponents were bad. The reality is that they showed why they're so good also, and why they're also going to be able to use a lot of those skills to beat better teams. And often what happens is some of these teams actually raise their game against better teams. They don't get destroyed more. I mean, it can go either way, but to just simply mop it up and say, well, England is not good. Because like what I saw from England in that game was that they're terrifically, like, they're just really fun to watch in transition. They have so many good attacking players. Bellingham is just super fun to watch. They have a lot of good attacking pieces. On paper, it's fantastic, and obviously they took care of what they needed to take care of in the opening game. We'll see what happens when they face better teams. We'll see. The other thing is that we've seen big teams lose opening games. The Saudi Arabia manager had something, and obviously he's become like a cult hero now because he's stylish. His tactics were on point against Argentina. He decided that he wanted to play a different kind of football. He was a little bit more risky.
I'll tell you an interesting story about the manager. I just learned from it, but finish your thought.
Well, something that he said after the game was that, explaining the victory, he said sometimes a big team in the opening game, it's the best time to face them because their focus is not sharp at the beginning, and they come in. Like if you look in Argentina's case, they had won 36 games in a row heading into this World Cup or something like that. They're Copa America champions. Yeah, this could be Messi's last dance. Yeah. So maybe that's the best time to face them, right? And if Saudi Arabia faced them on the final group stage, they would have gotten destroyed. Maybe, I don't know. These are hype. So we have to give credit to the big team winning the opening game as well.
Yeah. And just and then I'll add on to that. But about the manager, somebody in the office just told me that the Saudi Arabia manager is an ex-player, and you're gonna have to excuse me. I'm blanking on his name. He was an ex-player in the lower categories of France, and reportedly played against Zizou. And the manager said Zizou was so good running circles around me that basically the next day, and this is kind of figuratively speaking, not literally the next day, but basically the next day, I said, football is not my game. I'm going to retire, early retire. I'm not going to dedicate, my the rest of my life to try to become a professional football player because I could never reach the level of these kind of players. And referring to Zizou. Oddly enough, life went on. He worked as a sort of a hobby. He got a coaching degree or his coaching license. Went to Africa, got a job there, did rather well, and eventually ended up, getting the gig with Saudi Arabia. And only to now, in his first international game in the World Cup, to beat one of the heavy favorites in Argentina, and also, what has now been declared as a national holiday. It seems that Saudi Arabia will now every year celebrate the day that they beat Argentina. So, yeah, I don't know, one of those funny anecdotes from the World Cup that you can only hear in a World Cup that are kind of, nice little human stories to hear a different side of people that, again, are not household names. I mean, I'm not really even paying respects to the man. I forgot his name, but yeah, new
Herve Renard.
Something new you learn every day.
So starts his career at Cannes, and then goes to
coaching career. This is
his
playing career. Okay,
playing career. And this is 1991-92. Goes to Belarus, then to another team that I can't pronounce properly, and then retires in 1998. And there's no other really real data on him, but success stories like this are always, the nerds go crazy for people like this.
Yeah.
It's because he's in the position where we all would love to be. He's a attainable. When we look at people like, I don't know, Jurgen Klopp or Jesse Marsch or Julian Nagelsmann, these are literally gods to the nerd analytics community, because these guys were not, either they weren't players or they weren't great players who figured out a way to use their brain to get a gig professionally, at that level. And so, yeah, this is awesome. This guy Renard is already forming a cult following.
Incredible. And listen, and just to continue on sort of the favorites, the team, you have to, of course, mention the defending champions. I mean, Australia made life interesting for France there by going up 1-0
great too.
And then, 4 goals, bing, bang, boom. And France remain one of the heavy favorites, despite, of course, having a massive list of key players injured. Benzi having to come back home, and missing the likes of Pogba and N'Golo Kante, and then some. And it just goes to show just how deep that squad is. And still, you have to, fear France, because Le Bleu are the champions. So they're the team to beat.
There's another team that look really, really good despite being decimated with injuries. They're so deep that they still look good. I mentioned this yesterday. I think Antoine Griezmann has been one of the under the radar stories this season. He's been so good. He's had a resurgence with Atleti, and he's also playing the perfect role for him with France yesterday, where he's not doing much defensive work because you got a double pivot there, and then he's got this free roaming 10 role. He doesn't have to stay on the wings. He's not playing as a false 9. He can literally just pull strings and distribute. He had some incredible passes over the top of Australia's line yesterday. That's another one to look out for. Again, all of this is going to change. I mean, this is just going to be a revolving door of opinions and analysis and highs and lows from teams, but this is what we've seen so far. And I was going to say one more thing, but it won't really matter, because when I was watching Japan this morning, what they did in the second half is that they showed that they have tools that could potentially take advantage of Spain's high line, because Germany have some of those same weaknesses in theory. But it probably won't matter. It's very possible that it won't matter by that third game if Spain lose that game anyway. But what would make this group really interesting, goes without saying, is if Germany beats Spain. Then all of a sudden you have, 3 teams on 3 points?
Yeah.
At least Japan could possibly top the group by after game 2 if they beat Costa Rica and Germany beat Spain. I mean, that would be fascinating. And then all of a sudden you have the last game, Germany versus Costa Rica and Spain versus Japan.
Yep.
Just throwing it out there, there's like a small percentage that Spain actually go out of the group stage.
Stop.
Based on that scenario, like if Germany beats Spain and Japan beat Costa Rica, Japan are on 6 points. Is it head-to-head or goal difference?
Goal difference, if I'm not mistaken.
If it's goal difference, Spain are looking good with that 7-0 cushion.
Of course.
If it's head-to-head and Spain lose to Germany, different story. I'd have to look it up. I always forget because I feel like this changes, and also every tournament has different rules and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'd have to look at it. But leave that small percentage. If Spain lose to Germany and Japan beat Costa Rica, I'm gonna make a TikTok out of this little thing that I just did. Diego,
I hope that doesn't happen.
I'm neutral. I grew up being such a diehard Spain supporter. I've just become, with internationals, I've just become an observer who just likes to see fun things happen. So that's that. I'm just all in on Canada though. That's it. I'm for obvious reasons I'm not supporting Iran, or pretty neutral, and I don't really care what's happening with them. I'm more focused on what's happening in the country. But Canada, them
not singing the national anthem was quite a statement.
That was good. That was good. Also, the Iran captain came out and voiced his support with the people after the game. That was also encouraging. Yeah. I have about 35 minutes before Canada takes the field. Thought I could eat some breakfast. Can I share with you some cool things?
Absolutely.
It's just one cool thing. I discovered today that my laptop fits on the top of my treadmill.
Oh,
that's
amazing.
Perfectly, and it doesn't fall.
Oh, wow.
And so I basically turned my treadmill today for the first time into a treadmill desk.
Oh my God.
I watched all these games on a treadmill. I even wrote my 2 pieces on Modric and Rudiger, and I did all my tweets on this treadmill. I prepared for this podcast on the treadmill, and I'm currently at 21,000 steps.
Wow. At what pace?
I'm like speed 2. It's like one of the lowest settings you can possibly go.
Okay,
basically,
well, there you go.
Baby stepping and all.
Hey, that's so good.
Yeah, I feel like my life has changed all of a sudden.
I want that. That sounds really good, actually.
Highly recommend walking desks. It's basically you don't have to put time aside for cardio.
No, it's exactly it. It's healthy. Very good.
Yeah, I bet Lucho does that. By the way, Lucho's Twitch stream is going to be lit tonight. What time is that at? Do we know?
I think it usually streams around midnight-ish. So, yeah.
5 hours or something.
They've been fun.
I haven't tuned in yet. I might tune in tonight. You think he's going to be like, told you guys, fuckers.
Fuck you, haters. He'll throw a little dig out here and there, maybe.
Did you see in one of the Japan pregame press conferences yesterday, a reporter asked one of the players, who's your favorite Spain player at the World Cup or something like that? And he said Thiago. And then the reporter was like, Thiago's didn't come. And then he was like, oh, Thiago didn't come? I didn't know that.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, Yikes. To be fair, like Thiago is a great player. Like I would have expected I'm not going to keep tabs on every team and who called up what. So I don't blame him, but thought it was just a funny moment.
That is funny. That is very funny.
We're going to once Spain get eliminated, you're going to hear all of this. Thiago should have been there. Ramos should have been there. We needed a leader.
I'm very happy with this midfield. I'm very happy with Lucho's selection. I'm very happy with the arrival of Balde as well. My respects to Gaya, but hey, if you're going to be injured 10, 15 days and then still have to get back into match rhythm, I understand that the Valencianistas are pissed, but you missed the train, buddy. Lucho has had to make tough choices, and I'm happy that he made that choice. And I was ecstatic. I mean, I told you, we talked about it just before the World Cup started, that I would have loved to have seen Balde on this team. So when that news came through, besides the fact that he's the 8th Barca player on this squad, the fact that it was Balde made me very happy.
Sunday night, Diego, pencil it in, Spain, Germany. The last game of the day is going to be a banger.
Oh, yes.
What mood are you going to be in if Germany beats Spain? Should we not record?
Does that mean you want to record? If Spain loses, you want to record Sunday after the game, and if we win, you can leave it for Monday?
I'm just worried about like how your mood if Germany beats Spain.
Look, man, this is not knockout round yet, so if we do lose, I'll be all right. I'll still have faith.
I think we should record Sunday night after the game. But I don't know. I haven't talked to you about it. We got to talk off air, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyways. All right. Well, enjoy the Canada show, my friend.
All right, man. Looking forward to that.
I hope we don't disappoint you too bad.
Good luck. Well, listen, also, can I just say, if we do have any Belgian listeners, we're cousins. There's no, the loathing that I have for the Germans does not extend to our friendly neighbors down south. So there's not that rivalry if you're expecting that, Kiyan, between Holland and Belgium as there is between Holland and Germany. And I'm going to remain adamant and call my country Holland and not the Netherlands. Or I'll mix it up. But this not calling the Netherlands Holland anymore is kind of still awkward for me. I don't vibe with it.
I bet you if Canada were facing Germany, you'd be wearing a Canada shirt right now. You'd
Absolutely.
probably be pouring maple syrup in your hair.
Absolutely.
Bathing in maple syrup.
Absolutely.
All right. Wish us luck. Enjoy it. Thanks,
luck.
Man. It was fun. Good job, Spain. Lights out performance. Best performance of the tournament so far.
No doubt.
That was pretty clear. And Sunday is going to be lit. Thanks, Diego. Talk soon.
Keep an eye out. Gavi, pretty good player. Keep an eye out.
Camavinga's better. Peace.